It came on. All right. It's always a pleasant surprise when something works, you know. Let me just check something here that I should have checked before. Yeah, okay. Still can't play the music, so I had to make sure that it wasn't on. Yeah, so it's Friday morning at about 10 o'clock, which means that it's time for, well, relaxing taping with Dyson Dungeons today. Yeah, it's pretty much what's going to happen is I need to prepare stuff for spray painting. What I have learned and the people around me here, the other members of Dyson Dungeons, have constantly reminded me that I say I'm going to accomplish something on the stream, and I usually get somewhere between a half and 2/3 of it done. And so today I was going to say that it might be a little bit short today, and because all I'm going to be doing is taping. And one of the other members, who will remain nameless, just started laughing and said, yeah, right, you won't even be able to finish what you said you were going to be doing by the time 2 o'clock rolls around because, you're slow. So, I'm going to be putting tape on things so that I can spray paint them over the weekend and maybe do some other kind of assembly on Monday. I've been talking about doing assembly since Wednesday. I thought, well, Wednesday I might be able to get some of it done. You never know if everything goes pretty well, but it didn't. Not that it went badly. It just is taking longer than... It just takes a long time to get this model going. There's always something, and I'm slow at painting, especially the detail stuff. And yeah, so I said, well, maybe I'll get it done, and then I put it together on Friday, but that didn't happen. So now I'll say, well, maybe I'll be able to assemble some things on Monday, and I'll show you why that might be possible. One reason it might be possible is that I did this on Wednesday, and it took me the entire stream. Really, it took me the entire stream to paint the detail on all the conduits on the top and the bottom. Good grabbing onto things, holding things, top and bottom, bulkheads of the service module. Yeah, it took me all that time to do that because that's the speed at which I work. They came out really well, though. I'm very pleased at how they look. Okay. I really did a good job of getting the things. Whoa, it's going to be that kind of day, is it? Yep. Get it all painted and then toss them around and probably chip the paint. Anyway, these are the top and the bottom of the service modules, but this is the inside, and the inside in these areas that are now white need to be spray painted gold so that the internal bits, these things, which also need to be spray painted gold, okay, these can, the top, yeah, so that these can be assembled. And that's when I talk about assembly, what I mean is getting these bits that are now white painted gold so that they can be put in here, top and bottom. And once those are put in, okay, then all of this stuff, these pieces can, or almost all of them anyway, can be assembled. These go into the interior, and then this and this go into one of the externals. Okay, this is a little more complicated. But these parts are done. This is the parts are done box. I thought I'd bring it out. I brought it out here so that you can see that there are parts that are done. It's important to demonstrate that things have actually been happening over the last couple of weeks. But so to get this done, this part is straightforward. I just need to spray paint one side, wait for it to dry, flip it over, and spray paint the other side. Okay, that is that. This side's a little more complicated in that this side is painted this greenish gray color, so I need to mask it off. And these parts then need to be masked so that everything is covered except for that and that. I'll be putting tape on today and probably grumping about it. I'll be grumpy about it because the tape tends to stick to my fingers and the tweezers and the scissors and not to the surfaces. Anyway, so yes, this gets taped so that this can be painted gold. This gets painted on gold on both sides so that it can be installed here. These are gold so that when this goes on it, they're gold. Okay, the rim is going to stay green. I'll have to keep reminding myself as I do this what color things are supposed to be where, especially on this part here, where this whole inside, including the edge here of this raised part, needs to be painted gold. And then this bit here, including the bottom, and this bit here need to be painted the blue-green, and the whole outside needs to be masked because that's going to be painted the kind of pearl white that I used on the escape tower. So taping this isn't going to be tricky in the sense that it's going to be, hard to do necessarily. It's going to be tricky in that I have to keep remembering what gets painted what color. So I'm going to paint the gray-green bits first. So I'm going to mask off this entire inside and outside, and then gets reversed. So this is going to take a couple of days. A couple of days meaning Monday, today, Monday and Tuesday, okay, before it's done. The same thing is true of these guys, except they're simpler. The whole inside of this is painted blue-green, gray-green, that, and then the outside will be painted white. That'll be about the last thing that's done on this. This bit here goes on the very, very outside of the bottom. That. So the inside of it gets painted this gray-green, and I'm going to paint the outside of it a different color because it's not an internal structure. Okay, like these are all like internal structures. It's an external structure, but it's not painted white because it just holds the nozzle. So I have kind of an off grayish white that I'm going to use for that. Yeah. So I'm going to paint the gray-green first and then the other colors. So that's going to be, taping it now, painting it over the weekend, taking the tape off. I could do some over the weekend, but then, I'm doing the whole model on the stream except for the spray painting, really. So even if it takes longer, that's how it'll go. This little bracket here, I need to remember to paint, is the bracket that holds a high gain antenna, a part that was broken, that goes here, so that it gets painted the same sort of grayish white color that this is going to get painted. Anyway, that's why I need to be doing a bunch of taping, and that's what I'll be doing today, is taping stuff off so that the parts that are supposed to be painted are exposed and the parts that aren't supposed to be painted are not. These are really important. I'm going to start with these and then this, because if these 4 pieces are done, if that's all that happens, if these 4 pieces are done, then I can actually assemble the interior detail, the interior of the service module, being left only with the shell. even that gets a little wonky, but I'll go into that later. So I'll start taping sometime now. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to figure out what to mutter on about, because it's, seems to be a tradition on this for me to go on about something old that is of little interest to the viewing audience. I'm reaching behind me for a mug of coffee. I've gotten into the habit of setting that mug back there as I'm starting, because of the incident, the horrifying incident during which I knocked over the mug. And off to that side, about 2 square feet of workbench surface was covered with coffee. Coffee with cream, so it was really messy. There. Yeah, I'm just got 2 kinds of sophisticated tape here. I've got blue painter's tape, and I've got modeling tape. And I like to use this on surfaces that have already been painted. Okay. Not counting the primer, because it's less likely to pull the tape. Yeah, and then I kind of use this, like when I mask this over, for example, I'll probably use a bunch of this, because I can use this. I'm going to I have to cover those areas. I'm not going to waste tape on it. I'm going to just get a piece of paper and tape it on. So I really don't have a very clear plan about how I'm going to do this, other than that I know what must be covered and what shouldn't be covered. Now, I put down a nice piece of paper towel here because of all the detail that I bothered to paint on this. I don't want to rub the paint off, because the cardboard is actually kind of abrasive. Okay, how long? I've only taken up like less than 15 minutes, and I'm already starting to do something. Really kind of just, I don't know. I'm not sure what that portends. Okay. The last time I taped this, I cut the tape too short. Whoa. Okay, I dropped those. I'm dropping the tape. My hands. I need to get. Maybe I should get a pair of gloves like the ones that wide receivers use in the NFL and American football. They're sticky, right? It's a little bit of a cheat, I think, but just the way this is happening. Okay. I'm just pushing this down into the channel. I'd like to actually not have paint in the channel, because I have to cement into it, but there's already primer on that, so what you gonna do? I can just wrap that around the edge. Okay, 1 piece of tape adhered to the model. I have done something. Maybe I should just declare victory and stop right now. Okay, what I'm doing here is checking to make sure that oh, that's an issue. Huh. And, okay. There's this little notch here. There's always something, right? There's always something. There's a little notch right there. You can see it. Okay. Right there where my finger is. That notch is for the bottom. It's like a flange of the exterior, this thing hinges here and opens up. And that little bit there is going to show when this is open. And so it needs to be painted either gray-green or it needs to be painted gold. Painted gold. I'm moving the tape over so that it is green. There'll be a boundary there. And I think that will be okay. And I need to do the same thing on this side here. The gray-green paint came over too far. The tape came over, so I'm going to have to tape over it, and I hope the gold will cover that adequately. Here it comes to get adequate coverage. Anyway, yeah, always checking. I found that triple checking the fit of these pieces before going on is essential, because there's frequently a surprise. Right. Oh, yeah, there's that needs to be taken care of. Like when this tape goes on, need to do the same sort of check down here at the end. Sway a little bit. Yeah, and then I'm going to mess around with this again. Oh, I need to check on the top too, don't I? Yeah, the top, I mean that part. I mean, it's just these little bits of things. You'll look when I'll set this in and I'll look over to there and say, oh, yeah, there's a little bit of green poking out. That's not good. Just a little bit. I'm much more concerned about making sure that what is going to be painted gold is actually painted gold, and a little bit less concerned about the gray-green color, because that isn't going to show that much. I think that is going to work. That was the most important. This is the most important part here, is this. The rest of this is just covering it all up. Measure 4 times over and over and over. Saying measure twice, cut once, which makes a lot of sense. When you think about it, if you're dealing with materials expensive, especially if they're fairly expensive, like really good hardwoods or something, you definitely want to measure twice and cut once, because you don't want to spoil the material. Okay, you spoil the material by not being careful about your cut, where the cut occurs. Okay, I keep doing this because there's this, okay, I got the edges, but now I have to do the circle part. It's like the way I can do this is just tape across the top of it. This is actually kind of silly because this is going to be behind that divider. Okay, it's going to be behind it, which means that it will not be seen. Great, huh? So I'm pretty much wasting my time doing this. Because the part that I'm taping here and very carefully covering up will never be visible. Be careful with that. That little tab here needs to be painted gold, so it cannot be covered. Just push the tape down in a place where I don't want it pushed down. So I need a tiny little thing. I'll use this nail. Pin. Use a pin. Pins are good to lift that up. Yes. Maybe. No. Good grief. So this bit of tape, this little piece of tape here is just, it's not doing it all what I want it to do. Not in the least. Should do is cut. Really should do is take a piece of tape like this. Instead of a straight line, I should try to cut a curve. Sort of matches the curve of the thing I'm taping. Why not give that a try? I don't have to be, actually, don't have to be terribly concerned about underneath there because that's going to be covered by this. Yeah, there. So that was in fact pretty much a waste of time. But there it is. Time wasting or not. Do that. Yeah, okay. Well, whatever. Is that when I'm done with this, that there will be a pinpoint of something the wrong color. It just will be that way. have to try to touch it up. I had some success touching up with this grayish green paint. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do this way. I need to tape the entire edge of this. Cut this way so that I can, it'll be a little less wasteful. To cover it and have it extend above the surface just a tiny bit. Getting better at that. Because I want to tape the edge, have it extend above the edge a little bit, but not have the tape fold down over the edge, because the paint has to come right on up to the edge. This is only really a consideration here. On here where it's going to be painted gold. The rest of it, it doesn't much matter. In fact, it would make sense for it to come up over the edge. Yeah, I'm a fraction short, just a tiny little bit short. I'll just fold that over on the side. What am I doing here? Well, what I'm doing is I'm taping this little bit here. It's a gap. Why was there a gap? Because the tape was like 1/8 of an inch using that kind of measurement. It's short. Putting this right down the center here and folding it over on both sides because I need to cover the entire green surface. Painted green on both sides. Oh, why am I worried about that? It's taped over. And I'll just fold it over, and I'm going to be using the blue tape to adhere the paper covering. Because it's cheaper. And it'll be sticking to the tape and not to the painted surface. Okay, now cut out a chunk of this and then shape it so that, why am I worried about wasting a little bit of paper? I am so much a product of my childhood. I learned that if you use it up, you'll never get it again, so don't use it. That was not really a particularly good lesson. But I don't want this to I want this to just be a little smaller. Did there was I made a ridge by pressing down on the paper around the edge. I want this to be a little smaller than the area I'm covering so that I can just tape it. And I almost succeeded. I can't grab anything today. It just slides all over the place. Good grief. What is with this? Okay, so the way this should work is the tape should actually grip onto the paper. Okay. It should stick to the paper, and then I can fold it over like that, and it should stick to the other tape. But I don't want it to go onto the painted surface because it would may potentially pull the paint off. Welcome to Fumbling with Tape on Friday morning with Dice and Dungeons. Look at that. So far, it's going okay. Except I'm knocking things around with my scissors. Yeah. Okay. So this side, which is the not important side, okay? It just isn't very important, is now covered. The reason it's not important is because in reality, the reality of this will be that you won't ever see this. This you will see. And what I need to do here is cover this up carefully and completely. I'm going to be real sophisticated here. I'm going to mark the circle. And then what I want is to make this a little smaller. So I'm going to cut like a 1/4 inch inside of the circle that I drew. I'm cutting paper like this. What I should be doing is, since I was just cutting paper like that, is I should talk about the difference between romper room and ding dong school, because other than the fact that they would use safety scissors, and this isn't quite the same as the little round-ended scissors that we were all given as kids, because we have to be careful. Don't hurt yourself. As they say on Muppet, oh man. Okay, well, that Muppet Treasure Island, the source of great wisdom. Don't go running with scissors. It's all great fun. It's all great fun until someone puts an eye out. You have to say it in pirate talk. I'm telling myself I'm not wasting time here, that the preparation of the surface before painting it, the application of tape, very carefully taping and covering and masking and all this other stuff that I'm doing here, is essential to the end product. I actually believe that. So I'm telling myself that this is worth the time and effort that it's taking to do it, even though it's, it looks kind of scabby like that, whatever, especially back here. So yeah, you're getting relaxing, putting tape on things. So this whole thing is now covered with tape and paper, except for this bit here, which is going to be painted gold so that it can be the bottom. This is the top, the bottom bulkhead. And this just is a problem right here. Tape is not going, it's not adhering to the surface. So it is not doing its job of masking what it should be masking. There's just this lump there. There's a protuberance that's keeping it from working. To do is actually, I need to tear that tape a little bit. Stick it down. Okay, this is done now, and I am ready at some point soon to spray paint that gold. Now I need to do the same thing to this. So it will be just as tedious. Having done it once, though, it might go a little faster. I'm not sure. Let's find out. This has the same issue in that there is a gap thing there. That line of gray-green is just right. In fact, they're both pretty good. Let's see how this goes. But it's the same thing. I need to tape off these bits, these edges, and then this edge, and then cover the whole thing in paper and blue tape. Weirdly, this blue tape doesn't stick to itself. It sticks sticks to other things pretty well, but not to itself. Okay, that went okay. See how this other one goes, and then I'll tape that, and then test fit the thing again to make sure that it seems to be covering or not covering, depending on which color is going where. What I want is the gold paint to go right on up to, maybe slightly over the gray-green there. And I don't want it to, what I don't want is I don't want it to leave a little white line. It's just one of those things, that wouldn't be an issue if there weren't this little gap on the bottom. These little gaps on the bottom, where the flange on the exterior shows. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so chat, meaningless chat, purposeless chat about stuff while I'm doing this. I don't know. I did on Wednesday. I was talking about the theme song for Gilligan's Island. Okay, and how it changed. One of the only theme songs that I know intentionally changed during the course of the show. And it was because the rest, remember the original version in season 1, it was the millionaire and his wife, the movie star, and the rest. Okay, well, the rest got restless and wanted better billing on the show. And so I actually did a little research. I did, I will admit. I went to Wikipedia and looked up Gilligan stuff. I know. What can I say? I wanted, if I was going to talk about something here on the stream, I wanted to, be somewhat accurate. So it turns out that the rest, when they did the credits for the show, they would introduce, they would show who was playing what character, and the rest were not in the credits at the beginning of the show. They didn't show up until the end of the show as like basically extras. And after the first season, the rest, thought, well, maybe we should get a little bit more credit and billing than we're getting. And so the rest became the Professor and Marianne in the theme song. And they also showed up with the rest of the cast in the credits at the beginning of the show. That seems to be like a fair thing, right? What we didn't know, according to Wikipedia, so it may be true, is that this change was the advocate for the change, and the reason it happened was because of Gilligan. Yep. Bob Denver said, okay, guys, we need to be fair to the rest here. We need to be fair to the rest. They're just as much a part of the show. In fact, they're a very important part of the show, Their characters are becoming beloved and all of that. We need to give the rest their due. And Bob Denver, it turned out behind the scenes with the Gilligan show Mucky Mucks, convinced them that it was important to spend probably like hardly money at all, even maybe thousands of dollars, right, to redo the theme song and the credits. So I thought that was actually pretty cool to find that out, that he was responsible for that. So there's the story. That the Professor and Marianne became named in the theme song and showed up in the credits. Yep, it was only fair that happened. And it turns out that they actually had names. I mean, it was Marianne, but it was Marianne Summer. And I don't remember that ever, who pays attention during the show, right? But apparently she had a last name, and it became known, either it was mentioned in the show at some point, or they published some sort of backstory of their characters. I'm not sure which. But she did, and the professor had a name too. It was Roy something, but my apologies to the professor. I can't remember what it was. Remember it was Roy. I don't know. Why not Roy? Those were fun facts, maybe facts, fun internet facts anyway, about Gilligan's Island. Now, having said that, I probably can just not talk about Gilligan's Island anymore. There, I got this done. This, I think, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to the time. I think it got done more quickly than the other one. I think so, anyway. Yeah, I'm using the good tape on these so that I don't peel the paint off. At least that's the intent. And I'm folding it over so that I can tape the blue tape onto the brown tape when I put the paper on. Because I don't want to get spray paint all over the surface of this thing that I painted so carefully and wonderfully Wednesday. Okay. That would be unfortunate if that happened. So we'll go back to cutting out little bits of paper here. Have to get more paper. Some of these other bits, if I actually get around to taping some of the other bits, they are quite large. I might have to go search out another sheet of paper, which I know exists somewhere, but it doesn't exist right where I am. Maybe I'll be able to do that at break. Need this there. Put this up over here out of the way. I can put this up out of the way too. Gotcha. Over here you can't see it. There's another thing that probably should be put up out of the way. This on the other side. Last time I drew a circle, didn't I? Yeah. I drew a circle and cut it out. And that actually worked. So I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. What now? What now? What is there to talk about? I talked about, all the genres of TV back then, how there was nothing on but Westerns. Then there were a couple of shows about physicians, Ben Casey and Dr. Kildare. Those didn't catch on that well. I mean, I think they were popular shows, but what I mean by not catching on that well is that we didn't end up with like a half dozen of them. like we did with, say, spy shows, where we had Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Mission Impossible and the Avengers and Secret Agent Man, and just, I really messed that up. I folded the edge over the edge. Why? It's just not being careful. Okay, I'm almost going to have to redo that. At least I have to pull the tape away. The tape extends like a 64th of an inch, less than like half a millimeter in millimeter talk, metric talk, over the top. And I do not want it folded over, because I need to get the gold paint right up to the edge, right up to, but not over. So that had been done pretty well until I grabbed it and pushed the half a millimeter of tape over the edge. Nice, huh? To mess around with getting it back up off the edge. But be ending up having to touch up edges, and that it's sometimes difficult. With a brush to get it. I wonder if I can snip that off a little bit. There's a little bit there. Yeah. Well, I was doing okay until I wasn't. Try that again after this is put together. Yeah, this is a little bit harder because there's prongs there that just, okay. I thought this was going to be easy, and it's not. Because these things stick up. Tape one side and then the other. And it is kind of important that I close the gaps there, because you never know with spray paint. Okay? You just never really know where it's going to go. Stop. See if I can continue to do this without being messed up. Just running out, the Marianne Professor saga, on Gilligan's Island. I thought that was kind of an interesting 1960s television anecdote stuff. But now that that's over, now what? What do I do now? I could, I'm really reluctant to do this, but I might be forced to, just because there's nothing else in the repertoire at the moment. I might be forced to ask who was more powerful, Samantha the bewitched witch or Jeannie the genie. I know that debate was a real debate that raged on at the time, mainly among people in elementary school, maybe middle school. Yeah, I think it raged on among people in middle school. That seems to be kind of an appropriate level of discussion here. Is let's have a 1960s era middle school debate about who was more powerful, Samantha or Jeannie. Okay, this isn't going to go very well because I don't really have an opinion, and it's sort of hard to tell because, know that in the TV show we saw their full powers. I think Jeannie could go like back in time. I know she could travel just anywhere by kind of, what did she do? She blinked, nodded her head, crossed her arms, and blinked. Right, but that was the magic move. Okay, this is presenting the same issue as the other one in that comes to the edge of the ridge here, and then doesn't cover the surface underneath. So I need to break the tape, push it down onto the surface, get a tiny other little bit of tape. Maybe that'll be okay. Now, other than this folding over the edge in a few places now and then, this looks like it'll do. I'll check that again before I spray the paint on it, of course. But this, this is covered. And hopefully the tape will stick until tomorrow when I get around to painting it. I ended up, trying to match the gold of the gold foil. They provided the gold, a little bit of sort of like mylar material for the gold foil on the lunar excursion module. Those of you who are familiar with the lunar excursion module know that it had a skirt made out of gold foil, real gold color. Things are going okay. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, real gold foil. So it, excuse me. So I was thinking before I sorted through all the parts in the box that I would probably go out and get some because, it would look really cool if the lunar module had gold foil on its skirt, and it turned out that the model actually came with it. And then there are other parts that are painted gold, like the interior of this thing here, that should be the same gold, but I tried 3 different brands of gold paint, and none of them matched terribly well. I even tried overlaying one. Uh, there was, how did they say it in Jurassic Park? We spared no expense. Yeah, lots, actually, fairly significant portions of the Apollo system, especially the lunar module, were covered in, were spray painted gold, basically, because it didn't deteriorate in the space environment. It was electrically conductive, and I'm just taping some of the back here where there's openings, and the spray paint will come through the opening. Well, what kind of character are you trying to make? Tell me something about the campaign. Tuesday. Oh, no, it's worse than that. Um, it's not just the graphing calculators. The graphing calculators are like way, and it wasn't a joke. The graphing calculators we have now, that do graphs and actually do calculus, are way more powerful than anything that was on the Apollo. No, the comparison was pocket calculators. Okay. But you have to think of not pocket calculators now, like graphing calculators. You have to think of like pocket calculators from like 1990. Okay. That in terms of computing power were way more powerful. Oh, okay. So level 5 is a really good level. We discovered that, when we finally ended up leveling up in our D&D campaign, that you know you're now strong enough to actually do things and not get killed immediately, which is kind of nice. But you're not overpowered either, so the DM doesn't have to work extremely hard. Okay, I want this edge to be painted gold, so I need to run the tape on the edge like I did before, just barely going over the edge. So I'm going to do this, cutting this in half thing again. It's a little easier to manipulate. Half width. So, do you know anything about the campaign at all? Do you know anything about the other players and what they're doing with their characters? Because you want to make sure your characters are complementary as much as possible in your party. I don't know if that accomplished it. It didn't. Not really. Okay, that's pretty fun. Um, Saving people is good. I don't know about getting away with murder. Wow. Yeah, that's So is the captain of the guard an NPC in the game, a non-player character, or is the captain of the guard one of your players? But wizards are pretty cool. Okay. I would say, yeah, being a wizard with a cool backstory like that, that's good. I like that. That's very nice. I'm going to have to put my glasses on momentarily here because the cartomancer feat. I love that. Uh huh. I think that would be a lot of fun. Do you know what the well, of course, you have to have a card binder. Not only the oh yeah, you need to make sure that they're first edition cards, okay? Because everybody knows that the first edition cards are always more valuable than any of the later ones. I don't know why that is. It just is. So yeah, make sure that her cards are first edition cards. Wood elf. Wood elves are always fun. Got these stupid little notches here that need to be painted gold. But the bottoms and the tops, I don't want painted because those, yeah. Oh, even better, holographic. Okay. They need to be first edition original holographic cards. Definitely holographic. Why would it annoy people? It's just your backstory, right? I mean, people should just respect the character's backstory. It is what it is. As long as you're not like a super nationalist about it or something, like Ravnica is the only decent place. Well, that's a good question. I mean, using cards for your spells and putting them on in a deck, and even better, having a binder with the ones that you're not using, because that's such a classic thing to do with cards, is to have a binder full of your deck, of your extras that you're not using. See, no one should get annoyed with you if it's just your favorite setting, and you don't abuse it in any way, by making it too annoying to the other players. They shouldn't be bothered by your backstory. They should just be, informed by your backstory. That's the important part. Because they don't know your backstory. If they care about your character, then they'll listen to you and learn about it. So that would be fine. I think. I'm torn about what to do with the top and the bottom here. Taping it like this is pretty straightforward. Oh, welcome, new follower. Thanks so much. So the tarot cards. Why not? Okay, so that the cards can have two purposes, I guess. Oh, okay. See you in a bit. So I'll wait for them to come back before talking about tarot cards. What I'm doing today is taping stuff so that it can be spray painted, so that next week, finally, maybe I'll get around to doing some assembly. So these edges get cemented onto the top and bottom, these things, like this, actually, top and bottom of these bulkheads. And they cement way better when they're not when the cement isn't against the paint, right? But there's already paint on this. There's already primer. So I think what I'm going to have to end up doing is like doing the old scratching it with a pin thing to scratch the paint off from the insides of the channels and the edges of the things that are going into them so that the cement adheres. So taping it like this right along the edge, okay, is just easier than, well, no, it isn't easier. I mean, I could tape right along the back, but I can also tape right along the surface. Taping along the back is easier because you can follow the contour. And thinking about it, it doesn't hurt for this to be painted gold, because if there's like any kind of gap, I won't see a white line, right? I don't want to see the white line of the edge. So I'm going to tape it just along the back, like I've been doing so far. And then I'll cover the whole back with some paper. And then I will move on to more parts, because this is taping stuff day. It just is taping stuff day in preparation for spray painting. Oh. Okay, that's like the 5th time I've dropped something today, and so far nothing has been damaged, but wow, just over and over and over again, things are falling out of my hands. So this is like High Gravity Friday or something. I'm not sure what it is, but it's been a little bit, actually a little bit disturbing. Oh, look at that. Okay. Can you see that? Right there, a tiny gap. Yeah. One piece of tape. If I'd moved it over like a millimeter one way or the other. But as it is, I've got a gap that I need to fill. Okay, I'm going to do the other side and see if I've got an extra bit of tape. Wow. Still usable. Okay, what I just did was I managed to tear something while I was trying to cut it with the scissors. I can't even cut things with the scissors today. What is going on with gravity and other stuff? I don't know. I'm really actually glad, even though it might be boring for you all out there, that I'm doing taping today. Not as in recording. It used to be you taped things. It was on tape. Now it's just kind of it's like footage, right? When back in the day, that phrase came along because it actually was footage of film. How many feet of film did you use? But I am not taping in the sense of recording, even though this is being recorded. It's being recorded on solid state memory and not tape. I am taping in the sense of applying tape to things. And after I'm done with this one, I will review what it is that I've taped and why. And by being done with this, I mean putting a piece of paper over the back of it. So that when I spray the other side of it, that side, okay, I don't get it all over this side. I want it to be slightly smaller than the area I'm covering so that the tape around the edge adheres to the tape that is on there. Yeah, that's the idea anyway. Yeah. Tape the piece of paper onto the back of a thing. Such a deal. To tape a piece of paper here. And here. Why am I doing this? Because I don't want the blue tape onto the painted surface. Because I'm not entirely sure that the blue tape won't pull some of the paint off. The blue tape from time to time is surprisingly fail at adhering to the surface below it. Although if I were using it for like painting a wall, it would stick ferociously. I will say ferociously and not come off when I want it to. Such is the ways of painting tape. I'm using the expensive Tamiya tape where it's touching the painted surface because I believe, I'm not sure, I don't have proof of it, that is less likely to pull the paint away from the surface. You want to make sure that these edges are painted gold, but I don't particularly care about the top or the bottom. But there's a gap there that shouldn't be there. I don't know why it is there. I'm annoyed that it is there. And it will be a pain to, good grief. I pushed that tape down and it didn't, this side went down, but see, there's a gap there. And I'm concerned about that because spray paint can just go anywhere and everywhere. Don't want it there. Okay, so I'm doing that. Okay, well, it wasn't too bad. It is just tape. It's not like trying to do painting touch-up or something. All right. So up to the edge, but not folded over. This is actually okay. Let me clean up just a minute here. Just get some of the scraps out of the way. Put them in a pile of scraps. What time is it anyway? I used, I have used up an hour and a half. Yep. So the people who were laughing at me, saying, oh yeah, I might end early today because I don't have that much to do. And they started laughing. And so, yeah, right. It always takes you like way longer to do something than you think it might or say it might. So that's going to happen here. They were right. I mean, just taping these bits here today took an hour and a half when one might reasonably have thought it would take a whole lot less time than that. I won't say how much less time, but, less. But I do have tape now in paper, kind of, not beautifully done, but adequately done. Maybe adequately done. On these parts. So if I can, I'm going to be spray painting gold paint onto these because that's the color that says it should be. This section here is the top, is the bottom bulkhead of the service module. This is the top. These get spray painted gold. This part goes in between them like that. And then this goes on like this. This whole thing on the inside is painted gold. All right. And when it's assembled like that, then the pieces that are in the done part box get installed. There's 3 shelves with tanks and a big tank that goes there. And that will be, and then once this is done, then the interior of the service module would actually have been completed. Just done. Okay. So I just need to paint these things that are masked. I need to paint the exposed parts gold. And then make sure that, there's not too terribly much touch-up that needs to be done, and then assemble them without getting cement, melting the paint, and making a mess of things. Installing the parts that fit into that, and then the interior will be finished. So these pieces are ready to go. These pieces here are not. I'm going to take this one next. This is the next most important part. This is more complicated because these edges here extend above and below the bulkheads that go here and here. This actually hinges and opens. And because it hinges and opens, the inside of this needs to be painted gold. Because it does. Right? And I have to be real careful about the edges here because the top of this, the edge of this, okay, the bottom and the edge have to be gold, but the top has to be that gray-green color. because of the way this fits into the bulkheads. Okay. So this part, when this and this part, the edge and this are, yeah, they're on the inside. Okay. I tested that. They are on the inside. So especially on the bottom here, this is on the gold part. And then the outside of this, when this is closed, okay, will show around the edge of the bulkhead. Yeah, okay. So I need to tape in there and in here. No, I need to tape along the edge. Sorry, because the edge needs to be painted gold. So I want the edge to not be painted green. That's why I'm fiddling with this so much. I'm trying to remember that I tested this over and over when this is hinged. These go on the insides of the bulkheads. Okay. Let me start on this. This is just, if I get this wrong, it will really mess things up. So I'm going to very much try to not get this wrong. Oh, and it's curved. Just, okay. So we'll see. This is just going to be a pain to tape. If I were taping the edge, that would be pretty straightforward, but I'm not taping the edge. I am taping just the top of it. So this is a really important piece to get right. But it's also a piece where it's really easy to get it wrong. No. I got it exactly backward. Okay. I got it exactly backward. I want to tape the edge of this right now. But I'm also learning that when the blue-gray stuff is done, maybe I should do it the other way. I'm talking to myself here very purposefully, because the whole inside of this, including the edge, not like this. The edge needs to be painted gold. Okay, so taping this right now is not that hard. I just need to tape because the edge needs to stay white. But after this is painted blue-green, this part, and I need to tape it along there, that is going to be a pain in the butt. But I definitely want to get the blue-green first because that part, that color will touch up better. So this is another one of those, getting the tape on up to, but not folded over the edge. Okay, well, I hope this is the right thing to do. I'm pretty sure it is the right way to do this, that this edge, because it's on the top in the gold part, should not be blue-green because that part of it is gold. There will be complications later. I guess it's a good thing, to talk to myself as I work these things through to make sure that it's, that the tape is covering the right surfaces before going through the painting of it. I talked to myself several times before this stream about what colors should be where, but at a certain point in one's life, remembering what one talked to oneself about and what conclusions one drew during that conversation are not, they're not always there. Just extending a little bit too high. I'm going to have to be careful with the angle of the paint to make sure I get the paint down up to these surfaces, but not necessarily way over them. This edge here and here are going to be painted white. And then I have to mess around with the hinge because of the way the hinge is not an authentic part of the Apollo. Okay, it's a part of the model because the hatch has to be opened. And they made hinges. So I need to paint the hinge gold, but run a piece of tape right along there so that the outside edge is painted white. And I'm already beginning to clearly see that although this bit of taping here is a little bit of, a challenge, after the blue-green is painted and it's time to paint the gold, it will be yet even more of a challenge. Part of the challenging part is having a bad gravity day. Just not getting that corner right. Once I get this one done, I do believe that the remaining pieces will be easier. I can't. Oh my! I just keep dropping things over today. I think that's okay. Do the bottom one. See how that goes. But, talking about Gilligan's Island was, that used up some time. But now that I'm doing this, I'm just, I need I need somebody to make suggestions about talking about 1960s TV and stuff. Just, old timer things to talk about that nobody this day and age really cares about, but might find entertaining because it's, somebody old rambling on. But, well, what I was saying is that, that television was very derivative back then. Probably is still. I don't watch much TV anymore because why? I'm sure that there's really wonderful things on, uh, but there are certain things that I do watch. That a guilty pleasure is The Curse of Oak Island. That's been kind of fun, and it's actually turning out to be kind of historically interesting because a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of undocumented activity happened on Oak Island all the way, definitely going on in the 15th, 17th century, in the 1600s. Okay, a whole lot of stuff was going on in the 1600s that hasn't been documented. There's evidence that stuff was going on potentially even before that. 1500s, maybe even before that. We don't know for sure. There was a lot of tunneling. Okay, and some of it were tunnels, of course, dug by people searching for stuff that they thought were in the other tunnels. But there's evidence of an awful lot of tunneling happening in the 1600s, like 100 feet down, for a reason. I mean, you don't dig tunnels and reinforce them with timbers and things unless there's a reason. There's no mineral wealth on the island. Okay, so they weren't digging for anything, not even copper or anything like that. There's just nothing there. So it'll be interesting painting this. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I really don't. I hope it turns out okay. Getting the paint where I want it and not where I don't is going to be just a little bit trickier than I would like it to be. And this is an important part because this is the hinged panel on the side of the service module that shows the interior detail. So I want it to look good. I'm sure that spending all of this time masking is going to be worthwhile in the end. So far, my endeavors with masking tape have worked out pretty well. I mean, not perfect, but not bad. Okay. Oh yeah, I do want. Sorry, I want to cover the parts that are not going to be gray-green. To cover these edges here. These edges here are going to be white. This is the whole outside. So I can really seriously confuse myself here on these bits. Okay. So the edge has to be taped, but not the inside. Both sides. And I'm thinking the top has to be taped as well. I think I want the edge here to be white on the top and the bottom so that it matches the exterior of the service module. Because the blue-gray is it's like a primer color. It's for the interior components. Just, I don't know, just because of the way the thing is put together and the colors that it's going to end up being, turns out to be just kind of challenging. I felt at this moment that if it turns out poorly, I can just always remove the paint. I can remove the paint and redo it because I'm using acrylics, so that would work okay. This is a curved surface. This makes it just a little bit weird. It's like, where is the edge? Right? Where is the edge white versus others? And it's just going to be right along the top here. And as I discovered, because it's curved, I have to do it in little bits. Spray painting in here is going to be going to be interesting. This is another one of those you want the tape up to but not over, right? Right. To fold down onto the, yeah. And you don't want to push down on it once you've got it, so that it then goes over the edge as opposed to up to the edge. I'm going to cover the edge, right? I'm going to do that, but I don't want it to fold down onto the surface. That needs to be painted gray-green. I'm becoming very much not a fan of curved surfaces. The instructions, I should have paid attention to them. They said, if you decide to paint your model, like it's an optional kind of thing. If you decide to paint your model, you are making a bad choice. Your model will come together very quickly. You could build this entire thing from start to finish in like 6 hours, 2 streams, right? But instead, you decided that you're going to paint your model which means that you're going to be doing stuff like spending an entire stream doing nothing but painting conduits on the bulkheads. And then you're going to spend an entire stream doing nothing but sticking masking tape on something, hoping that it is in the right places. You think it is. You think you're putting it in the right places, but are you sure? No, not entirely. And then hoping that after you've done all of this and sprayed paint on it, that the lines come out right, but not only that the lines are nice and clean, but they are actually in the places where you wanted them to be. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here, because I want the model to be a B+ model. Submarine came out, I think, a solid B, but I want this to be better. I've already done one fail, a very avoidable kind of thing that has affected the quality of the appearance of the model. That could have been avoided, but I didn't think it through. And that was in the assembly of the escape launch tower, where if I'd rotated something 90 degrees, it would look better than it does. But I didn't think of that until I looked at it when I was showing it off. I think on Wednesday. I'm getting tape buildup on my scissors. Weird, huh? Okay, well, I'm getting the edges here so that I get blue-green paint on some surfaces and not others. Before I spray it, I will run my fingers over all the edges to make sure that they are adhering and masking. Okay, all of this just needs to be covered carefully. It'll be the spray painting challenge will come later. Oh yeah, I need to do the top edge of this like I did that. It's a tiny little channel of gray-green paint that I'll need to like hold with a gloved hand and spray to make sure it gets into the places where I want it. It's almost noon already. I think I will go ahead and do this part of the taping. I need to do smaller bits of tape because of the curved surface. I don't want it extending too much over the edge. So they need to be smaller than this, and I need to put them on like in just littler bits at a time, like that, because if it extends too far over, it's going to get in the way of the spray. At least on this side, the edge is flat. get off camera and we can see the part that I'm doing. Getting to the point where I need a break. Taking one soon, and I'll come back and finish this. Yeah. I am unable to pick up a piece of tape. Nice. Okay. Well, let me tell you what needs to be done now with the rest of this, because it's not done yet, despite my efforts to get it finished, is that I need the only parts that should be exposed for the spray painting is this little ridge along here and this bigger one along here. Okay. And I've been taping the edges here, but the whole inside of this needs to be covered up, and the whole outside needs to be covered up. So back from break. Hinges here. Those are those stick out, and they're kind of a pain. They need to be covered. I will be, fortunately, somewhat less carefully just taping along the edges here, folding it over, then covering up the inside of this with a piece of paper and the outside with a piece of paper. Just blobs of tape, I mean, that's all it is right now is blobs of tape around the hinges, because it doesn't matter if it's pretty or not as long as it is covered. Okay, so I'll be taping along these edges just on either side so that I have a surface like this, okay, against which I can put the blue tape, because I don't want the blue tape to go onto the white paint, because I don't want the white paint to come off when the tape comes off. Okay. It should go, I mean, it should be okay. These guys are a little bit easier because the whole inside is painted. I don't have to be doing this edging stuff. I just need to tape around the edges because I don't want the outside to get paint on it. That gets painted white later. So it'll be like running the tape all the way around the edges and then covering the outside in paper on this one. There's just a lot of volume there. Same thing on this, the whole inside top, inside bottom, tape around the edges. And then this, the blue-green is on the inside, okay? And so I'm going to tape, I have to tape the edges. I want the edge of this I want the edge of this to be this sort of grayish color that I'm going to be painting it. So I'll be putting tape all around the edge like that, so that the edge doesn't get painted, and then paint the inside blue-gray. And then when that comes off, I'll tape just on the surface so that the edge gets painted the sort of grayish off-white color that I'm going to use just for this part and for this and for the bracket for the antenna. Okay. Yeah, break time. I'm going to take a break. I will be back because everything is taking longer than I thought. I thought I would be like completely done by now. That was kind of silly, wasn't it? I thought I'd be completely done by now and I'd be ending early, but that isn't what's happening. What is happening is that it's taking longer than I thought, like everything always does. And I will be back after break and we'll continue until the taping of these bits is done, so that over the weekend I can paint gold on these. Gold, 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 and blue-gray, 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 blue-gray on those. Yeah. I'll be back in more or less half an hour. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it will. I think it's going to look good. And I think, just taking the time to do this, spending an entire, basically three plus hours sticking tape on things, I'm hoping will be worthwhile. So I will be back in about half an hour, finishing the taping and then explaining what will be happening next. Thanks for joining in so far. See you then. I'm back and it's working. Yay. I'll never cease being surprised that things will be working, because so often they don't. I actually remembered a thing. I remembered to bring paper because I don't have enough to do what I'm finishing doing here with this. So yeah, I did. I remembered to bring paper. Okay, what I need to do, I need probably to remember to buy another roll of this because I'm using quite a lot of it. I'm covering this in the whole outside. That's the only parts on this that get painted first. The first bit of painting is this little ridge here, and there's a little bit here. As I've said before, I'm using this tape as the base tape because it's less likely to peel off the paint underneath than the blue tape. So I put that on and then tape the blue tape onto the brown tape or yellow tape or whatever color you want to call it. Okay, let me do the outside first. Yeah, that was worthless. I'm going to cover this little gap here So, of course, I put the tape on in a way that didn't cover it. Cut that off when I get to that side. Hi, Who. I will do a flip. I am doing nothing but taping today. I am taping in anticipation of spray painting gold and blue-gray paint, gray-green paint, not blue-green, gray, whatever, gray-green paint onto things over the weekend. So I'm covering up the parts that I don't want painted. Yeah, that's the clever plan for today. Was putting tape and paper on the parts that I don't want to have paint on them. And I'll go over all of that later again as I have modest success, just moderate success in not messing up the tape I've already put on. So once I get this piece of paper attached, I am going to do a flip. Piece of paper just barely. Yeah, I don't know. Good enough. Actually, not good enough. Why doesn't it stick where I want it to stick? Now, this is an important thing to have stick because I'm going to be painting down onto the surface and over the edge. So this needs to be redone because I can't even get stupid little taping paper on correct. Wow. I'm demonstrating really marginal competence here today. So the one thing I can say, though, this is a good thing, is that even though you might not notice it by how poorly I am doing here and what a mess I'm making in the process, is that I've actually saved the easiest part for last, as opposed to what I usually do, which is to save the hardest part for last, all inadvertently. So, yeah, what I managed to do was take a really easy thing and mess it up. Yep, pretty good. Well done. Where'd my pin go in this mess, this maze of mess? I had a pin that I was successfully using to get the tape off of the edges where I didn't want it. Well, I'm getting closer to being done with this than I was just a little while ago, but I just have to say that I really didn't do a very good job of a very simple thing. But there, the outside is done. Now I need to do the inside. Put these parts away so that I don't mess things up. Oh, okay. You did not miss the flip. You just came in just in time for the flip. I'm going to flip this piece. Why? Because it says on it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 to 1. That just won. Okay. Putting this tape on there, and now I need to cut a piece of paper to fit this. So what I'm doing with moderate success here is masking stuff that needs to be masked. You just that was about to not be good at all, as I almost broke the hinge by attempting to wrap this tape around. So I need to slow down a little bit here. Slow down just a little bit, which I just didn't do, and make sure that the tape, that's all I'm doing is taping tape against tape, just making sure that that happens in a semi-decent way. Relax, just relax, and push down the tape. And then go over here and cut some of this paper off because it's a little too long. And then tape along that edge without making a problem with anything. There we go. Make sure that that's way too long so that it's going to cause a problem with the painting. But then that's okay now. And this will be okay here. And now everything is covered on this. You can see it's like almost everything is covered completely. That's a piece of paper, that's okay. Except for this little bit of ridge here, which has, tape around it. So that's going to be a little bit challenging to paint without getting a paint shadow on it. And the same thing up here, except it's a little bit bigger. And once those are done, then those will get masked over. Then I'll paint probably the inside of this gold. I can leave most of the outside covered. And then, anyway, this one's taped. And I can put this, I don't know, somewhere else over here. This, the inside is painted the gray-green, and then the outside is painted kind of a brownish color. So I'm going to paint the gray-green first because I'm going to be using that color of paint quite a lot on some of these other pieces. So I'm going to do this, just little bits at a time. And again, what I want to do is have the tape be like a 64th of an inch up over the edge. Just up over the top of the edge to make sure that the edge is fully covered, but not so much that it's going to end up being folded down onto the surface that is going to be painted. Because if that happens, then I don't have a nice clean edge on the edge. What I have is a ripply edge in which the paint is not where I want it. And it's probably that was just a little bit too long because, it started to ride up on the edges. So, this will take a little longer than you might want because I can't just have like one big long piece of tape go all the way around the entire circumference of this circular thing. Explosion? Are you saying that you go on Twitch and watch people explode pretzels all the time? That people are exploding pretzels? No, you're probably talking about like some sort of animation thing, right? Not real exploding pretzels. That would be a waste of pretzels unless they were like old stale, horrible pretzels, like pretzels that weren't very good to begin with. And then they got stale so that they were even worse. And if you ate them, you would have an anti-pretzel day, kind of. That's probably what you mean. There's other objects, but the exploding thing can be anything. I'm not following the conversation here. Yeah, we do have 3D models of our characters. You want to explode our characters? I suppose we could do that. We might do that in one of the upcoming episodes anyway. I mean, there's an opportunity to have our characters explode. We've had several opportunities actually for our characters to explode. We've managed to either miss them or avoid them. So you want to MacGyver our characters. Is that what you want to do? Okay, well, I'm sure that would be a really, really good use of Lexi's time, to not DM our sessions or come up with puzzles or traps or anything, battles or plot advancement or anything like that, story progression, is to spend a huge amount of time animating our characters exploding. We could put that in our opening sequence or our closing sequence. I suppose we could do that on our show. Is the animation of our characters exploding could be the way we finish each episode. Is that what you have in mind? Is we play the theme music, do the credits, and then blow ourselves up. Yeah, that would be the kind of thing we'd do probably. It would be in character to have our characters do that. Look at that. I can't even do taping on screen. This has been a day. I've been dropping things like constantly. The only good thing to be said about that is I haven't dropped anything and broken it. But I have been dropping stuff that could be broken. I'm having tape not stick to where I want it and not sticking where I do. I just said the same thing twice. Not sticking where I want it and sticking where I don't. That is what I meant to say. That would have been the thing I was trying to say. Yeah, okay. So that's what we'll do is in our closing credits, when just at the very, very end, when the closing theme song ends, is that there's an animation of our characters blowing up. And we wouldn't necessarily have to blow ourselves up. The source of the blowing up could be a mystery. It would be up to the imagination of the viewers why it was that we blew up. But yeah, there we were, blown up. And pushing aside debris that had piled up right in the way. So there, that's the high point of today's stream of consciousness taping monologue is Midnight Brunch blowing themselves up in the closing credits. Why? Because that's what we do. Right? There we are. Okay. Now I need to get this to stick to get the blue tape to stick to the paper and the yellow tape underneath. See how successful I am at that. And I have to do bits at a time because it's circular and the tape is linear, straight, right? So it doesn't follow the curve. And I don't want it. Oh, this is probably, yeah, it is. I mean, in one way it was working really well, in another way it wasn't, in that by actually putting that down and pressing down on it, I was getting the tape that I carefully put around the edge, folded over onto the surface that I don't want it folded over onto. Nice. Yep, and I just set it down again. Because why not? Why not? If you make a blah, And oops, why not keep repeating that oops? Oh, I did an oops. I should stop doing that. Oh no, I just did it again. Oh no, I just did it again. Oh no, I just did it again. Keep doing that. I don't know. Why not? So the nice thing about taping, I don't know if it's a nice thing. One thing about the taping is that it can look absolutely awful, like this. I mean, look how scuzzy it looks. How I mean, just haphazard and messy, right? But as long as the only part of the taping that matters, which is right along this edge, is adhering to the surface cleanly and doesn't fold over on itself, and then the paint goes up to all the way up to the edge by spray painting it, laterally. Taking the tape off, no matter how messy it looks in its application, turns out to look really pretty decent. These little blobs here, but whatever this dark stuff is, dust or something, that we're going to mess up the line. So there, I talked about the whole Gilligan's Island theme and how it changed and people got credit where credit was due. And I've been talking about genres. Okay, everything was a Western. There were probably a dozen of them constantly on every channel all the time. Everything was a Western. And then Physician's Show came out. I think Kildare was the first one. And then in one of the other stations, there were only three, had to have a doctor show. And they had Ben Casey. And there was always this back and forth about who was better, Ben Casey or Kildare. And as I recall, it was in my family, it was just the women about which one they thought was sexier, kind of missing the point of a doctor show, which was about curing diseases and saving lives and sort of thing. But anyway, that's what happened. This okay. Need to just set this down here. Oh, it's sitting right in front of me. I'm going to save this for the end. Okay, these get painted gray-green all around the inside, so I just need to tape all around the edges. Okay, and I'm going to do the curved parts first because those are the most annoying because I can only do them little bits at a time because it's curved, right? So in the middle of the tape, it sticks up too far, and on the edges of the tape, it just doesn't stick up far enough. If I do about that much, that wasn't good. Yeah, it wasn't good at all. To just barely go over the edge on the ends. I need to make the pieces of tape a little smaller for these curved parts. And then this will go quickly. That's just straight. But this is going to go slowly because I can't cover much of the surface with a piece of tape. It can go a little more quickly because I can just tear pieces off instead of cutting them with the scissors. Yeah, things along a little bit. After I spray paint this blue-gray, gray-green, not blue-green, not blue-gray, gray-green. When I spray paint this gray-green, and if I have a nice clean edge, then that'll be good. And then I'll tape it in the other direction and paint the outside white, and hope that I have a nice clean edge. People who do this for a living, I'm sure, have secret ways of making sure that all of this goes much more quickly and not only faster, but better quality. But I don't do this for a living because I'm not getting paid for this. Unless you go to patreon.com/DiceAndDungeons. If you go to patreon.com/DiceAndDungeons, you can become a patron. You can become a patron by giving Dice and Dungeons some money, saying, "Oh, we really like what you're doing. Here's some money for doing it." Okay, that would be really cool. And becoming a patron, and it's not like you don't get something for that. You do. You get access to our warm-up sessions, which are really cool and lots of fun to watch. Okay, you get access to our warm-up sessions, and recently we have added hot takes from cold reads, where we ask artificial intelligence to write something for us, usually about Dice and Dungeons. And it's not very good, so it's actually pretty entertaining to listen to us read what it is that AI comes up with about us. Fairly recently, we even said, go to our website. Okay, go to the Dice and Dungeons website and write something about Dice and Dungeons. And even given it explicit permission, not just permission, but direction to go to the website and look stuff up. It still didn't get our characters right. Okay, it couldn't get our character name and character type. It didn't get our race and our. It just didn't get it right. It got I think it got one of the three of us correct. And what it did, and this is just so weird, is it took some of the NPCs that our DM has put into the, as adversaries sometimes as helpers. In one case, an NPC named Koromon, who was a fairly minor character, major at the very beginning, but makes appearances now and then. AI has somehow fixated on Koromon. Why? We don't know. Okay, but it got a hold of Koromon and keeps putting it into the things that it writes about us when we tell it to go to the website. But I don't think it's gotten my character correct. I think it recognized that Ulseth Ralph, just said Ulseth, was a furbog, I think. I'm not even sure. But it never got it corrected that I play a furbog fighter. Even when we said, go to the website, pay attention to what's there, use that in something you write about us, it still didn't. But it sure does like one of the NPCs that Lexi built into the show. Anyway, if you go to patreon.com/DiceAndDungeons and become a patron, you have access to those, and they're really entertaining. No, the AI is not good. You know that. The AI really sucks. And then we told it to do things about Dice and Dungeons, so it's always Dungeons and Dragons. So what does it know about Dungeons and Dragons? You go to a tavern and your group meets in a tavern. We asked it once to write like a poem, I think, like an epic poem, we said. And for some reason, AI thinks that if you're doing Dungeons and Dragons, everything has to be in the moon. I mean, just we started laughing and saying we need to have a drinking game where any time AI says moon, like moonlight or moon or the moonshine or whatever. But yeah, I think in one piece that was maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred words long, moon showed up like 15 times. Just over and over and over. One time we said, do it, write this thing, but don't say moon. Just whatever you do, don't say moon. And so what did it do? It said, there was no moon. So those of you who are afraid that artificial intelligence is going to take over the world, let's just say that if it does, it will be a very moony world, apparently. And that anyway, that's what it does. When you say, after saying moon 15 times in like 100 words or something, and you say, please, please, please do this next one without talking about the moon, it'll just say there was no moon. Right. We've not been impressed, but Hot Takes with Cold Reads is teaching us a lot about the limitations of artificial intelligence. Of course, another fun thing is because of the processing costs, and the electric use and everything, all this AI stuff is actually quite expensive. So every time we put an inquiry in, like, write a very short story, because it tended to just go on and on and on and not say anything at all. It was very good at writing a lot of words that didn't say anything. It costs whoever was doing this, Google or Microsoft or whoever is hosting the AI thing we were querying. Yeah, like $1 or something. So we were cutting into the profit margin of whoever was providing us with basically comedy. You also get access to our improv warm-up sessions, which actually are pretty funny, where our characters do something that is not canon in terms of the ongoing campaign. But just, like we get into a hall of mirrors, or we run into a super discount magic shop, or we fail to find ourselves or something like that. And those are pretty funny too. Anyway, as I said, where did this all start? Oh yeah, this all started with, if I were the people who are professionals doing this kind of modeling, master modelers and master modeler painters and that sort of thing, I'm sure would be able to do this sort of thing not only faster than I'm doing it, but better than I'm doing it. But I'm not a professional, both in the sense of my skill level, but also in the sense of not getting paid to do this. And that's where Patreon.com came in. That's right. Because I said that if you went to Patreon and gave us money, then I might be getting paid for it. And so in one sense of the word, in the technical sense of the word professional, I could become a professional. In another sense of the word, of being actually really quite good at what I'm doing, I would not so much be that. Okay, well, this seems to be wrapped around the edges. Now I need to, yeah, I can set it down like that. That's okay, because I want those edges to be covered. Now I need to put a piece of paper over this. It's almost just right. That that was a matter not of skill, but of luck. Yeah. And that was a matter of just being doofusly incompetent. Yeah. I did two things wrong there. I managed to do two things wrong at once. I put the tape too not far enough on the paper because I don't want the tape to touch the paint. I just want it to tape over the tape. And then I got it on very crooked. Yep. You can tell. You can tell it's near the end of the stream because my focus is very not good, and I'm messing up putting tape on paper. I mean, that I am messing this up is actually a pretty impressive feat because it's like practically foolproof, but not me, not me fool. I had that piece of paper cut just about perfectly, and then I've managed to just not get it on here very well. But what I did manage to do now is I did manage to tape it on, no matter how sloppily it turned out to be, and it turned out to be pretty sloppy, but it's done. So this particular piece is the entire inside of this. Okay, the entire inside of this is painted that gray green. I said it right. I said gray green. I didn't say blue gray. I didn't say gray blue, blue green. I just said gray green, which is the color that it is. This whole thing on the inside is all painted that color. Yeah, the inside, I just needed to cover up the outside because, and the edges, because those are going to be painted that kind of pearlescent white that the outside of this entire thing, all the components are painted. Set this aside. And I've got this left. This just needs to be done the same way. The edges just need to be taped. I rushed that, and so it didn't work that well. Just slow down and be patient. Don't get impatient near the end. after I'm done with this, the next step will be to talk about next steps. So before the break, as I was wondering about what should I talk about, and I started talking about genres of TV and how everything was Westerns for a while. I mean, just everything, tons and tons of Westerns. So too many to even remember. That they tried to do a genre of medical shows, and that I need to digress here. There's an edge here that just is, even though it's been primed already. There's just plastic hanging over the edge, okay, which you could see come off with the file. And as I was putting the tape on, it became really evident that it was there. Okay. Yeah, the medical show thing only generated 2, which probably was, really kind of surprising. One on each network, one on each of 2 networks. The third one, I don't remember. It was ABC, NBC, and CBS. Okay. Those were our choices until PBS came along. And then at some point, the UHF channel, as opposed to the VHF channels, the UHF channel came along, and I don't recall that they had much that we actually watched, at least initially. So I don't remember which 2 of the 3 major networks had shows, Ben Casey and Dr. Kildare. Sorry, which, I just don't remember that. I guess it's not that critical to the narrative, which is that there were only 2 of them that I remember. There were more on the soap opera side. It was like a general hospital kind of thing. Maybe they decided to do that, to do daytime soap opera-ish kind of thing with the medical theme. But then, the James Bond movies came out, and then there were the spy show kinds of things. There were quite a lot of those, quite a few of them. Mission Impossible, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Secret Agent, Man, The Avengers. And you always had to have a comedy version, just like the version of the Westerns was F Troop. The comedy version of the spy shows was Get Smart. It's another one of those things where everything was just sort of derivative. Every station needed to have one or more of those. I need to get back to this one later. No, I guess it isn't that important. I was looking at these ridges here, and yeah, the ridges themselves need to be painted gray-green. I said it right again, but the very edges of them don't. This one works out okay because it's like angled in. Check the one. Because I want those. Yeah, they want to be painted gray green. To I just have to touch it up once it's put together. Maybe not. I think. Oh, the bulkhead sits on top of that, so it's not going to show. Okay, that's okay. I have to test fit this in my imagination as to what it will show and what won't show. Like, I believe there's like a 98%, 95% chance that the entire inside of this, both the big one and this one, will be invisible. Not in the sense that it will be literally invisible, but that it will not be visible once it's assembled. That only the edges, the top edges, will be. I'm probably, being really careful about masking and painting portions of this model that will never be seen. I am then, but it will be that way. Will be portions of this that are very carefully masked and painted off screen, of course, so that you're not participating in seeing it happen. Sorry about that. I just wandered off screen again there. But yeah, like this portion here probably will be not visible once this thing is completed. Or at least not easily visible. You'd have to like bend around a corner or something, tilt the model up in an awkward fashion in order to see it. And then someone would do that and said, "Oh, wow, look at that. You even bothered painting the part that you can't see." And I go, "Yes, I did that." And say, "Wow, that was really great attention to detail." And I'll say, "No, it was me just not being very attentive to what will show and what won't show. And I wasted a bunch of time doing something I didn't need to do." Genres were there. Did Star Trek breed anything? I'm trying. I think Lost in Space came after Star Trek. Too many space-based TV shows. I think that they were too expensive to produce. I'm not sure. Or it might have also just been that Star Trek didn't catch on all that much when the original series was original. Okay, now I just need to put a small strip of paper right down here. There's not much that needs to be covered there. Yeah, so there were the essentially not really catching on terribly much physician shows. There were the catching on quite a lot spy shows, and then there came the detective police shows. That went on for, there were quite a few of those. Magnum PI. I mean, early on, you had like Perry Mason and so on. You know, those are Hill Street Blues, Miami Vice. There was an explosion of those kinds of shows. Some of them, that one went on for a long time. There was the FBI. And you had kind of the lighthearted ones like Rockford, and then the comic version, Car 54, Where Are You? But in thinking about that didn't just like come and go. That was something that had been around for a good long time. Dragnet. So maybe in the scheme of things, that particular genre of TV shows might have had like the longest lifespan of any of them, because there were some really early ones. But then there were, this explosion of them. 77 Sunset Strip, 66, kind of the combination Private Eye and Jack Kerouac kind of thing going on. That was kind of an unusual set of I think maybe those had more longevity because they kind of came out of the film noir kind of thing, and a bunch of movies back from the 40s that gave rise to TV shows. I'm not sure, but just thinking about it, it was yeah. Oh, that's what you can do. I don't know if we would get into copyright problems with that, or where whether we just get into trouble because of the sound. But you could play some tracks, some nines as a badger playing saxophone tracks that we could play in the background of this stream. Yeah, they might knock us off. They might knock us off and say you can't do that. Not because we're violating any kind of musical copyright, but because of just, the Badger 9 saxophone playing. Okay. I finished taping, I think, unless I missed something. I'm not sure. So I've got these parts here. Let me pull these parts out. This, eventually, it's taped now, so you can't really see it, but eventually it will be. Okay. I'm going to put a piece of tape over that because there's only spraying down into that direction, and that could be a problem. This is why I spend a lot of time just rotating these things and going, oh, I missed that. You get these sighs. There's a lot of sighing that goes on in this stream because it's like, really? Okay, so these bits here, this here, and this, and both sides of this are painted gold. And then they are assembled. This is the bottom and this is the top, a bulkhead of the service module. And once they're assembled, a bunch of stuff goes on the inside of these to show you where this door. This is the bottom. No, that's the top. This door will open, revealing the inside detail. There's inside detail that will be seen once this is all assembled. So these are just painted gold. And assuming that that works successfully and doesn't make a hideous mess of things that has to be, corrected, I'll be able to do this on Monday. I'll be able to assemble this, let the cement set enough, and then put the interior detail in. And then basically the inside of the service module will be completed. Okay, and then the rest of this, for these pieces, these will be painted blue-gray, gray-green. I keep saying blue. Anyway, I had gotten it right like 3 times in a row, but then I didn't. The insides of these get painted gray-green, and then those will be ready for assembly. I'm not going to paint the outside of the service module, at least these components of it, until after it's assembled. For the most part, because when these two parts come together, they will have a really bad seam. And I know the seam is not good because I test fit some of this stuff. Apparently they couldn't make one piece, so there's 2 pieces with a seam. They could have put the seam down the center. Nope, but it's over to the side. I don't know why, but there it is. So I'm going to have to fill in and sand that down and probably reprime it a little bit. Do a whole lot of taping again, so I don't get the pearl paint all over everything. But this will be like the last thing done. But I'm going to get the gray-green paint onto these this weekend. And I'm going to get the gray-green paint onto the inside of this, which is the very bottom of the service module. It's like a heat shield kind of thing. And I'm going to get the gray-green paint onto these tiny little strips of here, the top and the bottom, painting from the bottom, and then painting from there and here. And then the inside of this door. So I'll do that over the weekend too. But then on Monday, I'm going to assemble this. Okay. I'm going to untape this and tape the part that I just painted so I can paint the outside of it a different color. And then I'm going to tape this so that the inside of the door is showing. The outside is going to stay covered until I paint the white on it. But the inside of this is painted gold because the whole thing is gold inside. And I'll spray paint that probably Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I should be able to I might want to paint the outside of this white before I put it on. Anyway, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure what I'm going to try to do on Monday is assemble this, including the interior detail, if it all seems to set up well enough. If it doesn't, or if there's a problem with assembly, and there might be, then that might just need to wait until Wednesday. The interior parts, the little bits that go inside. But part of getting this together is not just putting these 4 pieces together, but also at least wrapping at least this and maybe this around it to make sure it's all lined up. Because it's possible to, have it become trapezoidal rather than rectangular. Anyway, I've got a bunch of painting to do. There will be assembly of some sort, somehow or other, on Monday. I'm going to do that. I will be doing some sort of assembly somehow on Monday, unless I need to do a whole lot of touching up of these parts that I masked here. Mainly concerned about these, the tops and the bottoms. Yeah, so I'll be doing that. I'll be doing some assembly, and then I will be doing some unmasking and remasking, and then on Wednesday, I'll continue this. At some point, there will be just small parts of this that won't take the entire stream, although they might. And I'll start pulling out pieces for the lunar excursion module. So, yeah, I don't have anything more to do today other than clean up. So unless you want to watch me gathering up, why not? You can watch me. You can't see it. Scraps of tape and paper that have accumulated over to the side here. So gold paint on this stuff, gray-green, I said it right, yay. On this stuff, assembly Monday. We'll see how far the assembly goes and how well it goes. And then additional masking on additional masking on this and this for spray painting on Tuesday. At least that's the plan. And as usual, I plan things and then I oftentimes get, anywhere from a half to 2/3 of it actually completed. Today I did get done what I was planning to do, which was finishing the taping, but it took an hour longer, an hour more time to do it than I thought it would. I thought I'd be finished around break time and that I have like some extra time off on a Friday, but that didn't happen. Nope, didn't happen. So I'm going to stop talking now because I don't have anything more to say other than television genres and how apparently police kind of detective shows, I think, might have outlived them all. I will see you on Monday at more or less 10 a.m. Eastern Time, at which time I will be coming back and hopefully having success in assembling the interior of the service module. I won't be getting the exterior done, but I'll be getting the interior pretty much finished, at least at that point in time. So kind of looking forward to having something assembled, right? Because until that happens, all you see are just parts all over the place. And it looks like nothing's happening, even though it is. It's misleading. Quit playing with this. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. I will see you on Monday at more or less 10 as I return to probably not much painting, really, but assembly and taping. Assembly and taping on Monday. And a plug for Dyson Dungeons. Watch our Dungeons and Dragons show. It is amazing. It streams with a live chat on Sundays at 2, 3 Sundays a month. If you can't catch it then, catch it on YouTube or listen to it as a podcast. If you like what you see, please become a follower or on YouTube a sponsor, or you can go to Dyson Dungeons, patreon.com/Dyson Dungeons and become a patron, and that would be wonderful. And you'll maybe get to see dialogue from Who talking about how he's going to try to get our DM to blow us up. So please do that. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell total strangers about how wonderful Dyson Dungeons is. Watch this stream either on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 until 2, or catch it on YouTube. And watch our D&D show because it's really entertaining and fun, and you'll love it. Have a good weekend, those of you who have a weekend. If not, thank you for working for the rest of us, and hope you enjoy your weekend when you finally do get one next week. Bye. See you Monday.